Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-host Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain. I'm here with Kenny Simpson, and we are bringing back the sleeveless wonder, O-line coach of the century, Bo Gould. What's up, coach?
Hey, how's everything going?
Fantastic. Well, it's not really. We lost Friday, so it's not fantastic. But OU did knock off Alabama, so, whatever. Like, you win some, you lose some.
Yep.
Sometimes you have a finger in the pie that loses, and you just go and be a fan of the one that wins, but it's whatever. Okay? Maybe I emailed, Joe John Finley over there, the OC. I don't know. No one will ever know. Yeah, it's been a good weekend. It just stinks, going out, second round, very winnable game. 5 turnovers, I think, is what we ended up with. So we didn't do ourselves any favors. Learned a lot of stuff for next year, though.
It's tough. Coach Gould and I are still alive so far. Hopefully we'll keep on.
Just 12-0, 13-0?
12 right now, and we got a really tough team at this point. They're all good, but we have a real chance to get to 13. We'll try our best.
Yeah, for sure.
What are the odds that you're undefeated state champs?
No, I don't know. We're just trying to go 1 week at a time. I know that's coaching cliche, and
it is.
Usually on the podcast, I'm pretty honest on this spot. I probably said some things on here I shouldn't be saying, but I think that we're really just going 1 week at a time because I haven't looked ahead enough to know. I think there are some really talented teams that we're going to have to kind of catch fire at the right time, but so far, so good. If we can win this one, and now you only got to win 2. You get to that point, shoot, anybody could win it.
So we noticed, and we're going to get completely into a topic here before we get into our main topic, but we noticed that our points per game and yards per game on offense increased pretty heavily once we got to the playoffs. I mean, even losing Friday.
Yeah.
Is that just because people aren't used to it? Like, I know we've discussed that a little bit. I don't know if it was this show or the other one, but just people don't see your tape all the time, right? You don't have common opponents anymore, stuff like that. You think that's part of it?
I think so, especially with what we run. We play some teams that they see us all the time, or they know we're in their conference. So they're preparing to play us back in the summer. And the same thing with us. We had teams in our conference that we see every year, and we know we're going to see them, and so we prepare in the summer. We even schedule non-conference games to kind of get ready to play those teams. So
right. That's
my belief. Now, at some point, you're going to run into some really talented teams where it's going to be harder to get those yards. But generally, and also I'd imagine too, I know for us, and Bo can speak on this a little bit, I feel like we've gotten better as the season has gone on offensively, like significantly better because we're so young.
Well, that's pretty neat. I think it's still blows my mind that numbers increased as honestly difficulty went up, right? These opponents are not bad opponents. We were a 3 seed, so we literally saw a harder opponent on the first week. And then last week we faced a 4 seed who put us out. But, it is what it is. Well, awesome. Bo, I know you've been on the show a couple times, but I real quick would like you to introduce yourself. Just tell us who you are, what you do, and kind of what you coach, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. For people that don't know you.
My name's Bo Gould. I'm the offensive line coach here at Southside High School in Batesville, Arkansas. I've worked with Coach Simpson every year that he's been here at Southside. This has been my only coaching job. He brought me in his first year. Kind of been with him through a lot here at the school. And that's what makes this year so much special for us, is because we were here when we were the exact opposite of 12-0. And it's kind of being through those tough times together, and then seeing what we're able to do now and being a part of that. I know that he's the head coach here, but I also view this as my program, because I work with all levels. I'm the elementary football guy. I head 7th grade coach, helped a little bit with the junior high, and then mainly senior high O-line. But, just like he does as a head coach, I'm the same way, even though I'm just an assistant.
Right. Well, I think good assistant coaches are worth their weight in gold. So congratulations. I just saw the Facebook picture of you sleeveless on a Friday night. So let's go.
Yeah.
Is that you next to him, Kenny?
That's my brother. He's
Okay.
decided to. I'm not that crazy. My brother.
Well, I knew you were like the anti-cold guy. So I was
I'm
like,
wearing
there's
a
no
vest
way.
right down inside.
Yeah, he stopped wearing short sleeves whenever it was under 70.
Yeah. Man, that's wild. It's so warm still.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, guys. Well, let's Kenny, if you would like to do the quote of the week.
Sure.
And then we'll jump into the topic here.
Okay. So quote of the week this week, we're talking about sacrifice here, but this one I kind of went off because it fits more what we're going to be talking about in our podcast. So this one is from Team Themes Volume 4. I think it's in the chapter that's leadership in that one. So if you've got the book, it's in that chapter. It says the principle, and by the way, this is Steve Young, quarterback, lefty, pretty good one, talking about leadership. He says the principle is about competing against yourself. It's about self-improvement, and it's about being better than you were the day before. We had a young coach here. We do weekly themes, and I pass it along to other coaches. So Coach Gould's done a theme, or other coaches do a theme. And I think the first year we had this brand new coach. I said, man, you're up. Bam, 22 years old, get in front of the team. And he got up there, and he probably quoted his old coach. And it's something we all knew, but our kids kind of took to it. He said, let's be 1% better. That was kind of, everybody's heard that.
Absolutely.
But it's when you say it in front of the kids really just kind of bought into that. I think that was last year or 2 years ago, but I can't remember. But basically, that's the idea that we've really sold our kids on is, hey, let's just get a little bit better at a time and focus on ourselves and not focus on who we're playing. And I've noticed when we went from good to very good, I won't call us great yet because you got to win a couple more games to get there. But went from good to very good, we started focusing on ourselves a lot more and on who we played a lot less. And that's not a knock to them. It was more, let's focus on what we can do.
Yeah, that's absolutely 100% true. That calling yourself great or other people calling you great, that's the old Nick Saban rat poison, right? Like,
yeah, we're not doing that.
We don't want nothing to do with that. Well, awesome. Well, guys, we'll real quick, we'll jump into these sponsor ads and then we'll jump in. So, Coach Simpson, why don't you tell us some way we can simplify football for our staff and for our players? What's up, coaches? I want to talk to you for just a few moments about your program. The longer I'm in this profession, the more I understand that efficiency is truly the name of the game. We're talking offense, defense, doesn't matter, right? Eventually, you're going to come down to checking out your efficiency. So I have to ask you, are you doing everything in your program the most efficient way, right? Are you fundraising the most efficient way? Are you representing your players and your program to the public in the best way? Are you planning to build the facilities the most efficient way? If you answered no to any of those, or really even if you answered yes to all of them, and you haven't contacted Mark Bridges at Ace Sports, you're missing a key step. So look, Mark and his team, they are the go-to group for video board and scoreboard installations for your school. They're not just football either. Mark can help you mock up your newest video board for that new stadium or maybe even your old stadium, right? That's where Mark and the guys come in. And we're not just buying a flashy thing, right? Yes, it's nice. It's pretty neat to have that big scoreboard, that big video board, but you're also, you're investing back into that program. You're investing into that newest fundraiser. Sure, you can keep selling your discount cards, your beef jerky, hosting pie auctions, whatever it is that you like to do. But let's just be honest with ourselves, guys. We're not making enough money for those big ticket items. For the big ticket items like turf, an indoor facility, that's where you need a big ticket item fundraiser. That's what Ace Sports is offering you today. Guys, I've talked to Mark several times now, all right? And it always comes down to big school, small school. Right? Well, of course, the big schools can afford that new video board, but the small schools really can't. It's just not true anymore, man. Your school isn't too small, and I promise. Okay, 1A, 2A schools, it doesn't matter. Mark and the guys, they're helping them out. Contact Mark today at mark.bridges@acesports.com and let him come give you a quote. Let him show you and your administration the plan. Now, really, it's the cheat code, right? Let him show you the cheat code that is fundraising with Ace Sports video boards. Tell him Daniel sent you. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Speed and Movement. At athleticspeedmovement.com, we've taken Del Basquet's 45 years of speed and movement training and put it all in one place just for you. You can get the same training that NFL players have been getting for years, collegiate players have been getting for years, and now high schools across the nation are paying thousands of dollars to bring Dell in to install his system, but we've got it online for you. It's time to help your team become faster, not just in the 40, not just their sprint speed, but between the tackles and their cuts while they're chasing down the quarterback. It's time for you to help them become faster everywhere. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. There's an orange button there. Just click it. It says, get the keys to playing faster. You'll get the 3 core movement video from Dell. He's explaining the science behind it, all for just the price of your email. Check it out, athleticspeedmovement.com.
Coaching 101 podcast is sponsored by Findaway Productions. Findaway Productions also sponsors fbcoachsimpson.com for all your coaching needs, with over 30 coaching materials, books, as well as 50 PowerPoints and videos and smaller materials and the free magazine headsets. Findaway Productions also sponsors offensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things offense, and defensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things defense.
Sweet. Appreciate that, Coach. Real quick, mention a couple other things. Gun T clinics. We've got 9 of them, 10, 12 of them. There's a bunch.
A lot. There's a lot. There's 9 of them going on. And they're starting to fill up, especially the early ones. I think my one in Charlotte's filling up pretty quickly. National Clinic, if you want to hear and see Coach Bo Gould, that's the best clinic to come to, not just because Bo's there, but because my staff is there. So you get to hear all that, and it's a defensive clinic too. So if you want to get some defense, National Clinic's probably the better one. But we're going to be all across the country. So Arizona, Seattle, Alabama, Charlotte, they're all out there. Go to Gun T clinics. You can find it at fbcoachsimpson.com. So they're all available. And I think Coach Gould and I haven't quite officially got it down, but we've got one of our installs. We only plan on doing maybe 2, just because he has 1,000 kids and I've got a bunch of kids too. So probably only going to get to make 1 or 2 of these installs. If you want to do an install with me and Coach Bo, that's over at FB Coach Simpson as well under Bring Coach In. I've had about 10 people inquire. It's always first come, first serve.
That's awesome. That'd be a great chance to. I mean, you talk about the books are great. The Gun T 6.0, the newest playbook is out. If you need to complete your collection, we've talked about it before. If you're getting into it for the first time, go back and get the first book, get the base stuff in, and then or just buy them all 6.
We have the author of one of the Gun T books on here, so he gets. We're paying his electric bill here. If you can go buy the offensive line drill book, Coach Bo did that book, so he gets some money from it. So make sure that if you are an O-line guy, and by the way, he did a great job with that. With the QR codes that literally go to videos of him showing how to do the drill. So you get not just a book, you get videos and stuff that goes with it.
That's awesome. So yeah, go get you the full Gun T book. But the clinics are a great way, especially those installs, to get the whole system, all of your questions asked. You're not waiting on email traffic or whatever. Get into it. Sweet. Let's just jump into questions here, guys. So part 1. So what we're going to talk about today is protecting your base plays. I'm sure the title's named something like that. And we're going to talk exactly what it means to protect those plays. What are your base plays, stuff like that. So question 1 has to be, what does it mean to protect a base play? And Coach Gould, you're the visitor, so I kind of want to hear your take on this to start.
So for us, obviously, you've kind of heard it already, but we do the Gun T here. And that's a little bit different for our area. So generally speaking, we may not know for sure what we're going to see going into a game. So all of our practice is kind of set up at what we could expect, reviewing like our blocking rules and things of that sort. And then we're giving our kids, like as far as the D-line goes, we're giving them scouting notes as far as what to expect when they see a certain player. Are they going to be upfield? Are they going to be squatting technique and things of that sort? So that way we can change how we block them. But yeah, we're focusing on the individual player that we could see rather than, hey, they're going to be lining up here or there.
So you're kind of protect your plays is like looking, basically seeing what they're going to give you, right?
Yeah, we're going to see what technique they're going to give us. And then once we kind of see that from film study, then we're going to be working those particular drills that week in practice in order to block that technique.
So I remember the first time I ever heard that you can do a down block more than one way, and that was from you discussing how you're teaching gap down backer. Is it an attacking team or is it a patient reading team, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're putting your head on even a different side of the body.
Correct.
So
Yep.
I grew up in a weird system anyway, but then as I got into, as I increased my knowledge, it was just there was one way to do a down block. So it's pretty neat that like even when you're protecting your base plays, it's changing the way you block a play from week to week, right? So
Yep.
that's super neat. Kenny, why don't you tell us kind of what does it mean to you to protect a base play?
Yeah, and Bo did a good job talking about like the techniques of it. For me, it's a lot more about like the scheme of it, and that's why we work well together because he's the one doing the real work and I'm the one drawing on a whiteboard, But the idea for me is when you have a base play, and you generally, most people think of base plays as run plays, and it could be a pass play. I'm just going to use
Sure.
runs because that's easier for us to kind of work with. So for us, when we got a base play, let's say it could be whatever, if you know us, we're running buck, but
Right.
it could be power, counter, whatever your zone, whatever your play is, you've got to do different things to protect that schematically. Like you've got to figure out ways so that the defense is going to pay for it if they do this or if they do that. We call that if then football. If they do this, then we can do that. And so a couple different ways you can do it. The simplest way is like a play action. If you're running split zone, the first play you're probably putting in to protect it is the boot. You're going to run the boot off of that. If you are running like we run buck, you're probably putting in waggle. That's probably the first play off of that because those are play actions that are going to protect it. And usually we're going to call a play action if a defensive back or a secondary player is becoming involved in the run fit. So if you're
Right.
doing the if then, if a defensive back's making a play, then we're going to go to this play action. The other way you can do it is RPOs. RPOs is going to become the rage. If you're in the gun, you can do the RPO. So if this linebacker or this run fitter, or we call them conflict players, a guy who's supposed to play the run and has pass responsibility, if that guy is making the play, then we want to have these RPOs that we can pull the ball out and throw it, or pull the ball out and run it, like a run option, zone read, think about that kind of stuff. So we want to have those RPO type deals where we're reading a guy. Then you have a counter. If they're selling out to stop buck, we're going to run double handoff. If you're running zone, you probably have some kind of reverse or cutback off of the zone or whatever it's going to be. Something where if you're selling out strong side, we can come back and get you, on the quick side. And we'll call that we would call that a counter. If you're just pass play, or if it's a base run play, you can have double moves. This past week we played a team playing man zero, and so we would crack the safety, crack the safety, crack the safety. So off of that eventually you've got the home run ball coming, and we were able to hit that I think in the second quarter for a big play. So you have those kind of double moves. So if your base play is a pass, you're probably protecting it with the double move. So it can be run or pass, but you're looking at different ways. And then another thing you can do is formations. If our base play is we're wanting to attack over here on the strong side, how am I going to manipulate the defense to get less guys there for them or more guys there for me? And so that we just call that like a +1. Like that's all I'm looking for is how can I get one more guy blocking if we're running to run the ball there. If you're throwing the screen, it's really clean. If you're throwing trips and they have two, you throw the ball. So you're looking for that +1. So formations can be big, and then we've gotten better about our motions, our shifts, our trades as we've kind of evolved as an offense. That's become a big thing for us because now I can change the picture for a defense right before we snap the ball. Where you're lining up heavy to our H-back, and then bam, he's quickly in motion. We're snapping that ball and we're going the other direction. So you can use shifts, trades, that kind of stuff. And then Bo did a really good job, so I'm not going to go back over, but I put down drills. Drills to kind of work on it. He mentioned down blocks because that's kind of our world. If your world is whatever it is, maybe like if you're running zone, you put in tug, where the tackle is going to come under the guard. So whatever your world is, we were going to talk buck because that's our world. But if your world's something else, you need to have multiple techniques that can help your kids in that world. Don't just teach the same zone block steps all the time, because eventually you're going to get blown up. So what are you going to do when that's not working? And so for me, we're going to use all those tools to protect it, but then you got to be honest. Like, what happens if I have the numbers right, I have the formation right, we have the technique right, and we're just getting our butt whipped?
Right.
Now what? And that's where those drills like Bo's talking about of, we didn't just decide on down blocks, hey, let's go ahead and step to the back hip. Like, that came about because we were getting whipped, and so we had to change a technique to give our kid a tool. And offensive linemen, I think, are the most undercoached group in America. And Bo does a good job with ours of giving them weapons. Like, what are tools we can do? We can cut, we can hinge, we can read a guy, we can step to his back hip, we can step across his face. We're giving you all these tools so that when you are physically getting beat, you can do this. And if you're not a run team, you're a pass team, then you need to give the same tools to your receivers. What are our tools to release? What are our tools to whatever it's going to be? And so that's where the drill work comes in. So scheme first. You better have a good foundation of your scheme. Formations are the cheap, easy fix. And then you better have multiple ways that you can beat it with technical skills.
Absolutely. We talk about protecting our base plays all the time, and we do it. Maybe we have 11 formations total, right? But we've got 15 tags off of every formation. So our kids can show you 100+ formations in any given Friday night. And I know there's no way you can go out and get properly aligned to all of those, especially if you have to start thinking about what plays we're actually trying to run out of any one of them, right? So yes, our base plays, we're a power counter team. We dabble with some zone stuff, but really we want to play power and GT counter as much as possible. And we've got a ton of ways to dress that up. You talked about window dressing, and that's what we're trying to do. Make your kids think. Number one, I know that if you see my H-back and he's tucked away inside of the tackle, you're thinking power. Your kids are probably taught that if my H-back is tucked inside the tackle to think power. The problem is I just lined up 2 wide receivers outside of him and then ran them across the field the other way out super wide, and now they're having to communicate about what is the pass threat coming there, right? My quarterback was lined up as a receiver and just motioned under center and then stood back 3 steps. Like, you know what I mean? We've just got your kids thinking about so much stuff that is this power counter is absolutely the last thing on their mind. And I think that's what it means in my mind to protect your base plays, is to get kids, I don't worry about the coaches, get kids thinking so much and having to talk so much that they check into the wrong coverages. They don't communicate a coverage, and we find a way to make it bust. Once again, if you're a pass guy, you're air raid, whatever, it's the same thing, right? We're just going to dress things up and make you have to figure out, what are we even trying to do out of this when your kids can't get lined up right? So,
And one last thing, Daniel, I was going to say is we haven't really touched on it, and we've not done a great job of this. We try to get better at it. But the other thing that guys are doing really good with is tempo. So all that thinking you just said, now we're going to run it at you faster than you were able to practice it.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you take kids and put them in a high pressure situation and then speed it up, man, you talk about watching the wheels fall off pretty quickly sometimes, right? Like, you guys talking about wanting to run buck. We're wanting to run power counter. We love our quarterback run game. Kenny, I know that's a big part of your offense, is giving him, reads to keep the ball and run backside with. Sometimes we're calling. We may even go empty, because I'm going to watch you empty the box, because you got to go out and take care of all these receivers, and any of them can go the distance, and then just run GT counter with a quarterback. Like, it's kind of unfair what offenses can do right now with all the window dressing that is available. Jump to our second question here. And, kind of like, why do we need those base plays? Why are we focused on certain plays instead of just installing a new play every single week? So, Kenny, we'll let you get started here.
Yeah, I think and I'm sure Bo's got a lot of this because he's big on like having like an identity. I think that's important that you have an identity. And I'll let him talk about other stuff on. I'm sure he's got stuff on there, but I think to me, it's who we're going to be. When the game's on the line and we got to have a play, this is who we're going to be. And I think that's got to have a couple things to it. Like one, this needs to match your personnel. I'm obviously I sell books on Buck Sweep, but there's some years that's not our best play because it doesn't
Right.
really match our kids' talent. Well, we're going to run it because it's something we're going to run every year. Just like guys that run, mesh, they're going to run mesh every year, but that might be not their best play they go to that year for a variety of reasons. And so I don't think it has to always be the same play. I think you need to have maybe a handful of 4 or 5 plays that every year you're going to run within your system. But then you need to try to find those 1 or 2 or 2 or 3 at most plays that, hey, when we got to have it, this is what we're going to go to. When the game's on the line and we got to win the game, or we got to, we've been in these high pressure situations the last 3 or 4 weeks. Me and Bo have, and Daniel, you were in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
When you got to call that play with, here's what people don't think about a lot of times as an OC. You got to call a play. You really have about 10 seconds to make up your mind of what you're going to call based on what you're seeing live, based on film study that you've done for 7 days, and based on 100 helpers in the stands trying to help you out, and knowing that if you call the wrong play, your season could be over. And like that's what you're dealing with as an OC is a lot of pressure. So it's good to know I can go to these handful of 3 or 4 plays that I know we're going to perform well to set up other stuff. You can't just run the same play every time, but these are plays I can go to and know that we're going to execute this pretty well. That's the hardest part about being an OC is when that stuff's not working, it's really hard to call a game. Like super hard to call a game when your base stuff's not working. When your base stuff is working, that play sheet stays in my pocket.
Yeah, you don't need
Like I know our compliments. I can see what's coming. So we need to be really good at that stuff because it opens up everything else. And if we're not good at that stuff, we're not good. I mean, look, I'm a big Dolphin fan. You stop the RPO of the Dolphins and we struggle bad. Like that's all I would work on because that opens up everything else Miami wants to run. If you're playing the Southside Southerners, you better probably stop Buck Sweep. And if we can get 4 or 5 yards on Buck Sweep, or shoot, if I can get 3 yards on Buck Sweep, I feel pretty good about the rest of our offense.
Yeah.
But we're getting negative yardage on that. It's hard to call plays if you're being honest. So I think that's a big deal. And then the last thing I've got on there is if you're really good at something and you're unique, like if you're a guy in here and you're running inside zone, that's not really unique. But if you're running something that's different, whatever that might be for you, okay, you can force defenses to become unsound to stop what you're doing. Like if you're really good at it, you make defenses make really hard decisions. Do you want slow death of Buck Sweep every play, which I'm willing to do? Or you guys, if you're in the Facebook groups, or I get comments all the time, how do you get teams to line up like that? Because if they don't line up like that, we're going to run Buck Sweep until the cows come home. And when they line up the way they line up, we just have to be okay at play action, and we got to be okay at RPOs, and we got to be okay at counter. I don't even think we practice counter more than twice a week, But if you sell out to stop in what we're doing, it's there. And so I think that's the big thing that OC's kind of missed the boat on is be so good at what you do, especially if it's a little unique wrinkle that's unique to you that they don't see all the time. You force them to be unsound. Like they almost have to be. And if they don't want to be unsound, you're good. And we're playing a team this week really, really good at going pin and pull, which is what we do. So I'm sitting here with my DC and we're talking a lot about it. Well, we got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this. He's having to get to the point where he's having to take gambles. He's having to risk because they're pretty good at what they do to get guys where we need to get them. And so I can see it from his aspect. If he doesn't do that, he lets them run what they want to run all game long. If he does that, I know in the back of my mind, because I'm an OC, crap, we're leaving some of this stuff open. We better be ready to make some adjustments. And that's just kind of how it is, and that could be every week. When you're playing a team that's really good at what they do defensively, it kind of forces your hand to stop that because I'm not going to just let you run what you want to run all day long. Like no DC in his right mind is going to let you do that. We played a really good DC last week. Like, I think he's really good. Coach Youngblood, I don't know if you listen to the podcast or not, got a lot of respect for that guy. We hung 450 yards rushing on him. It has nothing to do with him. But we forced him to sell out because of personnel, to sell out to stopping something, and man, it opened up everything else. And he's a great DC. If he hadn't done that, we'd have had 700 yards of offense and only run one play. That's kind of what you're trying to do. So that's my answer on that. I'll let Bo kind of talk about what he wants.
Yes, sir, Bo. Let's hear it, man. How come you think we need these here base plays?
Yeah, I think like he was saying, your base plays set up literally everything else you're going to do. And I think just to kind of touch on what he was saying, sometimes, like he was saying, you have to pull those base plays out in a time of need. But I think sometimes for us, those base plays change week to week as to what we feel like is going to be our go-to, just simply off of film study. And like you said, we know that certain people may be lining up to stop a certain play. So now this is going to be our base play. So don't just bang your head up against a wall constantly and trying to force feed things if that's really not there. Be willing to be fluid in what's going to be there that night. But at me, with my blocking rules and with knowing kind of what our game plan is going to be, I'm going to do what's needed that week in order to protect that. Maybe that's adjusting our rules a little bit. Maybe if I feel like they got somebody over there that's going to give us a handful, we've seen that a couple of times this year, but I know that we need to still be able to do certain things. I'm going to have different tags in case we need them. I'm going to have different rules, different ways to block it in order to get us in the best shape possible. Also, like, I'll just tell a quick story, and I think this may apply to the question prior, but I thought of it when Coach Simpson was talking. There was one year, probably 5 years ago or so, that we were playing a team and we were running buck sweep. Like the first couple of plays, their strong safety was rolled down in the box. Our guard pulls out there. He decleats the strong safety, decleats my pulling guard, and knocks him into the ball carrier for a loss of one. And we were like, oh, no, this guy's going to be I don't know what we're going to do here. This isn't good. And but because our kids were used to their formation tags and things of that stuff, whenever we were getting empty, that he would roll back to too high. And that guy was not an issue and was able to get 4 or 5 yards before he decleated us and knocked us into the ball carrier. But yeah, so I mean, you're constantly, me as an O-line coach, like I said earlier, I'm reviewing those deals. We may review them as like an O-line or possibly with like our tight end and wings, those certain tags. We may do that once every 3 weeks just to keep them fresh in case we need them. So I'm trying not to give my kids like, hey, this week we might do this on buck sweep, that on buck sweep, and this on buck sweep, and then they're confused. But me as a coach, I want to kind of rep those, like I said, once every 3 weeks, keep them fresh in case we do need them. And they're always where I can pull them out and say, hey, guys, this is how we need to block this now,
Yeah, that's really kind of a big point that you talk about what I said earlier, 10, 11, 12 formations and however many tags to each. We're not trying to use all those every week, right? And it's the same with our plays, right? We're running, I guess, realistically 4 or 5 base run plays, and we don't carry them all every week, but we take in what we need, and then we might have 10 or 15 tags to each one of those. But we're, once again, not all of that goes in every week, right? And I think that's why you need base plays, is to get back to that common, I guess, education, that common knowledge, so that if I have to start a new tackle or a new center or new anybody, right, or a new tight end, he's got enough on his plate anyway, just learning all the formation stuff. I got to be able to go back to, this is pretty easy, guys. We're just going to run power, right? I've got to have that ability, and then I can teach him 1 tag, maybe 2 tags within that run game. I think another thing is it gives a common language between the positions, right? So if you talk, we're going to go run power this week, I might do 5 changes before the ball snapped with all the skinny dudes in the back who don't have to worry about manhandling a man-child each play. But for my guys up front, they were listening for like 2 words. What's the direct formation, and then what's the play call, right? Because they don't really care about all that fancy stuff. We're kind of keeping that separate back there with all the guys that can run around and avoid hitting people. So
I know, like Mondays, we're installing our game plan for the week with the kids, and we're doing walkthroughs and whatnot. It's hard for me to keep a straight face behind Coach Simpson when he's talking to the offense, because when it gets to like the lineman part, he's like, hey, on this play, blank, remember it's buck sweep for y'all. Like,
we know.
don't overthink it. Y'all are running buck sweep, even though we have all these other words with it. That's for these people. What's the play? And normally he looks at my son who's up there at that tackle, and he'll go, buck sweep. Like, okay, Are we good? Like, that this is buck sweep. Don't pay attention to anything else.
We've even like seen that in our coaches this year, where the O-line coach was just like, I don't care what all those words mean. Like, which direction is my pass protection going? What run play is it? That's all I care about, right? Because we're very rarely are we tagging too much with the O-line. But that's sweet. Let's jump to this last question here, and Bo, we'll kind of let you go first. What's that dream number of base plays that you think you need to carry into every Friday night, or talk about protecting? How many are we trying to protect? What do you think is the answer there?
For me, and Coach Simpson said it, we're going to try everything we can to protect our main play, which is buck sweep. And on that, I feel like you have to protect that with 2 other strong side runs, one that could possibly hit inside of buck sweep and one that can hit outside of buck sweep. And then obviously something going back to the quick side for us. So that would be your 4 base plays. And then your play actions that you're going to hit off of that. Generally speaking, Coach Simpson, I feel like our base plays are probably around 5 or 6 base plays that we're going to try to protect, either with tags. And like I said, that may be those 5 or 6 plays may come from a pool of 15 plays, but during the week, we're going to find those 5 to 6 plays, possibly 3 or 4 runs, a play action, and then some type of rollout pass is kind of the way that I look at it. Inside of that, from film study, our play actions, I may see a team that's like blitzing a lot, or they're strictly straight up field that week and extremely fast. Then I may go to Coach Simpson and be like, hey, we can't do our play action pass protection this week. We need to do it, and keep everybody at home instead of pulling people, because I feel like we won't be able to protect it otherwise. But it's really on him as to what those 2 play actions are going to be from our pool of 6 or 7 play actions.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. When I think, and Kenny, I'm going to let you bring this one home because I feel like you've got all the knowledge. You've been doing this for a while. You built a whole system on it. Mm-hmm. I really want to protect like 1 run play or 1 pass play per formation, right? There, if I look at, excuse me, any given formation, there is a thing that I use that formation to get to, right? Whether that's power, if that's counter, if that's pin and pull, there's a reason why I put people where I put them. And so that's kind of my base play that I want out of that formation. So rather than a how many total, I think of it more by formation. Now, what you talked about, Bo, with, hey, sometimes they're going to take that strong run play away. That's great. And so I think of my weak side run play as just yet another way to protect the strong one, because if they start to take away for you guys, buck sweep to the wing, right? That's fine. I'm going to hit this backside play that should theoretically open that other one back up, right? They can't just tee off on it anymore. And so I just think of those weak side run plays. If you want to talk about inside, outside, however you break down your base plays. I wish I was more of a passing heavy guy, because I'm sure those guys are like, we're just protecting mesh, right? Like, okay, well, how, but still, I think it's that way per each formation. So that's really my answer there. I think it has to be like 1 play in each formation, and everything else we do there is just going to be protecting that play. because that's what we want to run. Otherwise, if nothing is the advantage in that formation, we're going to toss it out that week, right? If I don't have one play that just shows up, it's like, yep, this is the one that's going to work really well this week. We probably just aren't going to carry that formation. So I'm less worried about protecting a play out of it. Kenny, I'll let you bring us home here. How many do you think? Is there a magic number? Is it kind of how do you break that down on your game planning and such?
For me, I think you're looking at like trying to protect all your base runs if you can. I think that's there's not like a number to that. I think each year you have to kind of figure out what your kids can handle. Bo mentioned that we try to use a rule of 3. And again, it doesn't mean that's our base. It just means that like we may do 3 strong side runs, 3 quick side runs, and kind of roll from there. To me, I think it can vary, but I think it needs to be as low as possible, which I think a lot of guys get in that world and they add too many. Like we're going to run zone and we're going to run power and we're going to run this, we're going to run that. There's nothing wrong with running multiple things. As I've gotten older, it's fine, run multiple things, but what are you going to live in? What's your base? And if you say our base is all of these and your base is none of these, like that's kind of, those don't really go together. Like I like peanut butter and I like steak, but I don't like steak and peanut butter together. And so those don't always work together. They're very different, so you got to kind of think of that. They're both good, but they're both not the same. So for us, my mindset would be how few can we do and then how many tags can we do? Like I look at it differently. I think you and Bo are similar because I think both of you guys look at formations and then you look at plays out of the formation. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm the opposite. Like I look at plays and then I look at how can I use the formation to manipulate the defense to run the play. Like that's right. It's just there's a chicken or the egg argument. You can do either one of them, but we're going to use formations to run our base. You, on the other hand, have your base plays, and you're kind of using formation first and kind of working that way. Not wrong either way. For me, I also think it depends on your personnel. We got a sophomore quarterback this year, and he's gotten so much better. I mean, we're unbelievable how much progress he's made. And so our base plays have increased because he can do more. Where we made, we had 2 or 3 rollout passes. Well, now we've added some quick game stuff because he can do it. Right. And we used to have where he's reading one guy or running. Now we're letting him maybe progress 1 to 2. And so you can progress. I think there's basically one guy who limits how much you can do, and I think it's the guy you're snapping the ball to. Like if he can handle more, you can do more. I'm mainly talking about the passing game, RPO game, that kind of stuff. On the O-line, I don't think it's healthy to do too much. Like I think you get into where they're just not very good at anything. I would rather run, 3 or 4 base concepts and let them be good at all their tags. If you really break us down on film, we're going to run buck both ways. Okay, we're going to run an inside run both ways, which is literally the same blocking scheme flipped. So in my mind, that's 2 plays, for sure. And we're going to run counter. Like that's pretty much it as far as our base run plays. Now off of those, we got a zillion different RPOs, a zillion different, tags that Bo can do with his blocking, and we got a lot of different things we can do to make it look different. Pretty much that's it. Then in the passing game, we've probably got 3 or 4 concepts as our quarterback has gotten a little bit more advanced. We've been able to add a little bit more for him. And so we probably got, we're going to have a flood concept. We're going to have a couple different RPOs he really likes, which I know aren't pass concepts, but they kind of work with that. They're, to me, is almost a base call. And then we've got 1 or 2 quick game concepts. That's really about it. Now, we've got a lot of other stuff we can do. If you go back to that first question, if you sell out to stop us, like if you sell out to stop our base, which we're trying to make you do, we can come right back at you and hit you with these adjustments.
Coach, I'll just add something. Your steak and peanut butter deal.
Don't be the guy, Coach. Don't do it.
No, like as a head coach, though, okay. On Sundays here at our meeting, Coach Simpson kind of has to process because one of us, either me or Coach may come up with like, Coach, You got steak and peanut butter. I know you like those. Have you ever tried them together? I mean, I did this weekend and it was great. I think that we need to put them together, so he's trying to process all that stuff, that all the different ideas that we have and possibly trying them or not trying them and stuff like that. So yeah, there's always that guy out there that suggests putting steaks and peanut butter
There's
together.
going to be somebody in the comments here, or we're going to get a Twitter. Somebody out there is going to be like, but have you tried it? No, you crazies. Eat steak. It's delicious. All right, gents. I think that pretty much checks all the boxes for us today. I'm sure a lot of you guys have other opinions or different ways that you're doing this. So, tell us about it. If you're watching on Facebook, put it in the comments. If you're listening just on the podcast after it's posted, jump over to Twitter or something. Let us know kind of what does it mean to you to protect those base plays. Before we get out of here, Coach Simpson, why don't you tell us what not to do as a coach? I know that's probably everyone's favorite thing is we're all just kind of stopping talking at that point. But
yeah, I think our little metaphor there, I think is basically don't try to do too much. I mean, I think that's the answer is you need to have enough in. Like it's always a really fine, it's the hardest balance in football, I think, is how much is too much, because what you don't want to run into, because we're kind of progressing through this season, and Daniel, y'all saw it last week, as you start to get to these really good teams, you need to have multiple tools in your toolbox to go to when you're just maybe overmatched in certain areas. What am I going to go to when, man, they're shutting this down? So you got to have enough. You got to have enough, but you can't have too much. And I think that's a fine balance. That I can't answer it for you. Daniel can't answer it for you, and Bo can't answer it for you. If you're listening to this, you got to kind of figure out how much can my kids handle and do well, and how much. And you want to make that be right on the edge. Like you want to have enough in there where when I need it, I can go to it. Last week, I thought we had a really good DC. First half, we were running our base stuff, just bam, 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 bam. Well, he's a good DC. He's going to start taking that away. Right. So second half, I think we ran buck sweep for an average of 1 yard a carry. Fortunately, we had a lot of RPOs on the backside. We were able to run the ball inside a little bit. We were able to hit some play action. We were able to do some things because we had all these built-ins because he had to sell out, to stop buck sweep, which opened him up to this other stuff. So you need to make sure you got enough, but it needs to complement. So last thing I'll say is make sure when you're putting things in that it's complementing what you're already doing. Like it scares me to hear a guy going, I'm running the double wing air raid. That's probably not going to be very good. Like, I don't know if those go together. Like what goes with each? Can you steal concepts from other offenses? Yes. But does it go with what you're doing so that it kind of meshes together? Otherwise, you got a Frankenstein offense with a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and it's hideous to watch, and you usually don't win.
It's a great way to put it. Appreciate you, Coach. Coach Gould, thanks for jumping back on the podcast again, man.
Yeah, always enjoy it, dude.
You have to remind what's your 3 Fs? Is it 3 Fs or 4 Fs? Tell us about the Fs.
My 3 Fs are fast, fun, and physical.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Line coach right there. No CTE here.
I think that's why Coach Simpson has to keep everything so simple for us,
so we can make sure everybody knows how to spell things. It's great.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Hey guys, real quick, I'll mention the sponsors. If you haven't already, reach out to Mark and Ryan over at Ace Sports. I know a lot of seasons are coming to an end right now or have already ended the last couple weeks. It's a great time to get your admin on board with trying to get a video board up, help your team pull in some extra finances. Life seems to get easier when there's more money on the table for whatever reason. Jump out and get a book. We got Team Themes Volume 4 is out this year. Grab it now. Start using, prepping to use that next year. The Gun Tee Book 6.0 is out there, so you guys can. I'm getting attacked by my children now. The boys are waking up. Complete the collection or start the collection or whatever it is that you need to do. Hi, buddy. Get you one of those books. Jump over to the patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. If you're ready to start learning football and the way that I look at things, obviously it's different than the way that Kenny does, the way that Bo does. We all look at ball a little bit different. So if you just need another perspective, which is something I try to lean into every single year, go get someone else's perspective on the game of football. You can jump over to Patreon. There's going to be a tier for you. Social media wise, Coach Gould, where can we find you at?
Yeah, I'm on X or Twitter, whatever it's called now. Coach Bo Gould. Yeah, look me up. You can DM me if you have questions. Don't feel like you're bothering me. I'm here to help. Whatever I can help with.
Awesome. You can find me on same Twitter/X at Coach Chambo OK. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Jump over to the website by the same name, the Patreon, like I already talked about, or the YouTube. I'm slowly building a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to be like Kenny. Kenny has set this precedence that I'll never get to, but one step at a time, right? Kenny, where can we find you at, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So all the clinic stuff's over there at fbcoachsimpson.com. Books, materials, free stuff. Headsets, magazines over there. Find me on Twitter, FB Coach Simpson, and then all the Facebook groups. We're over 40,000 in a few of those. The coordinator academies, offense, defense, head coach, and then the Shotgun Wing Tee, where we try to post weekly videos of different things we're running. So that's over there at Shotgun Wing Tee on Facebook too. So any of that stuff, you can find us. A lot of free stuff, but then there's also Bo and I are filling up. So if you're wanting to bring us out, especially if you live in the beautiful state of Hawaii or another state like that, or really honestly, we'll go wherever. But if you're wanting to bring us out, you can go over to fbcoachsimpson.com and look at Bring Coach In.
I know there's some coaches in Montana right now that just love for you to come up and
I'm only going there in the summer. That's the rule on Montana.
Awesome. If you guys want to watch me bumble and stumble and fumble through my very first ever live clinic, you can jump to the Boston Gun Tee Clinic. I'll be there talking about this exact stuff. How do we protect our base plays, motion shifts, different alignments, different formations, everything else. So Boston will be the place if you want to come see this stuff live and get a little bit more in depth on how we protect our base plays. We want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.